our May 6th Board of Selectmen meeting. Today's meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that we broadcast may be captured by the recording. As a preliminary matter, I'm going to confirm that all members of the board are present and can hear me. I am Bob Springett, Chair of the Board of Selectmen. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Jeffries?
Here.
Mrs. Hunter?
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kate O'Brien?
Present.
Dave Sullivan?
Here.
Chris Dwelly?
I'm here.
Jerry Lane?
Once I'm unmuted, I'm here.
Carl Warnick?
I'm here.
Janet Claypool?
I'm here.
I think I got everybody. Mona DeSulio?
Present.
All right. Felicia Hoffman?
Here.
Got everybody. I've got anticipated speakers on the agenda. I think there's going to be a fair amount, so I'm not going to call names, but when you speak, please introduce yourself so that we can capture your name and the audience knows who is speaking. Okay. I'm going to go right to are there any citizen comments? None. Okay, first up, item 1.1, Carroll Management Advisory Committee update. And I think the speaker for that update will be Kathy Weld.
That is correct. Thank you. And I can't see all of my members who might be here. I saw that Chris was here. I was expecting Frankie Lou and Jennifer James, who may get in, and also Ruth is here. And of course, Bob is on his real board tonight. Our purpose is to share with you the CMAC activities over the past 2 years from 2019 to 2021 and share some of our CMAC conclusions from our efforts. So I'm going to be following pretty much the memo, all of the document dump that I gave you, the memo that describes them. So I'll start with the contingency and alternate site planning guideline, a document that we created or developed in 2019 at the suggestion of Bob Springett, representing the Board of Selectmen. And this document was approved by CMAC in January of 2020 and piloted a great deal sooner than expected by the Park and Rec, the COA, and the CDC during the COVID pandemic in 2020 to 21. And I recently updated a couple of pages in April of this year to reflect changes in key constituents on page 10 of that document, and the names of committee chairs and licensees on page 11. And of course, those are the kinds of things that are going to change every year. So it'll be one of those things that one has to keep up with it. The original impetus for creating this was the Carroll Community Center, specifically the age and condition of the 2 boilers, which could easily become an emergency situation if they both went down simultaneously. And of course, the future planning for the Carroll Community Center that is underway, which would necessitate it being vacated for a period of time during which, any either renovations or tear down, build new would happen. The users obviously would have to leave. So this whole planning guideline is what kinds of things need to be considered. And the committee believes that this document is essential for the town to have on time, not just for the Carroll, but for all the town's municipal facilities. Some parts are specific to Carroll, but most is general and can be applied to any town building. So I don't know that the Board of Selectmen has had an actual chance to formally approve what we put together. This is the first time that we've gotten to present it. So anyway, we think it's useful for the other buildings as well as the Carroll. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, all of the next items are part of the background research that CMAC has done to assist the Community Center Building Committee in its work and help inform decisions by that building committee, the Board of Selectmen, and ultimately the citizens. So I'll proceed to the Community Center Operations Comparative Analysis by Town, another big document. And the information in this document was compiled throughout 2020 from interviews with Dover and 4 other towns regarding their community center operations. We got 2 large towns in Lexington and Wellesley, and 2 smaller towns, Weston and Stowe. The data gathered has been organized and laid out in such a way that one can easily read across the columns to see how each town handles operations in each of the 9 categories, which are usage, fees, staffing, hours of operations, scheduling, security, finance, marketing, storage, and we did add others. So that would be a 10th actually. And I want to note that both our Parks and Recreation and our Council on Aging departments offer as wide a variety of programs and services as the bigger towns we visited. And I think that that's quite an accomplishment. So the biggest takeaway from this research effort is that we need additional staff if we're to run a good community center and maintain it at the same standard as exists in other town buildings. We need a full-time staff position under the Parks and Recreation Director, which I would call a coordinator, a Carroll Community Center coordinator, who would administer daily operations, do the program and rental scheduling, the marketing, the communications for the Carroll Community Center, keep track of the traffic in and out of the building and so forth. So that sort of touches every aspect of the operations in these different categories. And having this, we need at least 1 full-time custodian and probably more to encourage to ensure the coverage for all the hours that the building is open. These positions would enable smoother operations throughout the facility for all its users and would allow current staff in the 2 departments there to focus on what they have been hired to do. Many times I know from talking to both Mark and Janet, they do get engaged in their staff in doing things that are normally done by custodians, or they're just spread way too thin to do everything that they need to do to pursue their programs and services, even though they have as many as some of these other bigger ones. So that was an excellent effort by a little subcommittee of Chris and Frankie Lou and Jennifer James, who put this all together. And accompanying that, we have 2 job descriptions, general job descriptions, one for the custodial services and one for this imagined coordinator. Any job description that you would go out for would be much more detailed, but this is just very general, high level at this point. Actually, now item number 3 is a summary overview of CMAC's vision for the Carroll Community Center operations. I'd call them the Cliff Notes. And it was prepared at the request of Ford Spalding for possible use at the special town meeting. But it is actually a great overview of what a great operating community center would look like and how it might be run and who would be doing that sort of thing. It's a PowerPoint. And that was created by Chris Boland for us. And let's see. The last thing is the the mock-up draft budget, which was the last thing that we did, which provides a very high level, very rough estimate of the expense of running the community center, from the additional personnel needed to the maintenance and utilities costs to various miscellaneous expenses and the sources of income. I would note here that we would no longer have licensees covering the cost of utilities as in the past 15 years. The bottom line is that we are looking at total net costs in the vicinity, and this is just a very, very rough draft, of $261,400 in the year one of operation. That's with, again, very rough. But the takeaway from this chart and together with the comparative analysis chart is that the community center is not and cannot be a self-sustaining operation. It requires annual commitment from the taxpayers. I would say that we can and should make every effort to seek income from sources other than taxpayers, such as the income from rental of space in the community center, income from grants or from fundraisers. You see some of these things in other community centers, but all of those even all together would not be enough to cover the needed expenses for the kind of operation that we envision. And people have been asking for actually for a number of years. So, and I just want to thank my committee for the tremendous output of time and effort that they've given to this overall project in all of its parts. And ask if Chris or Frankie, if anybody who's there has any additional comments that they want to make before we get questions from the selectmen.
Kathy, I think you did a great job summarizing, and thank you for all your work and leadership on this effort. It's been quite a project and really excellent work. Thank you.
So I'd echo Chris's comments, and it started with the contingency guideline or the contingency planning, and that was just a terrific document. I mean, it was detailed, and it really sort of helped us think through what we really need to nail in order to have a current, consistent contingency plan. And I do think that we should take that up and we should look at it and ask Chris to take a look at it and see if we can apply that more broadly. The other thing that I really enjoyed, and mainly because I didn't have to do the work, the work that you did on research of the 4 towns and the categories that you identified, and there's a lot in there, so that we could get a sense of what people are doing today to help the building committee on a couple of really straightforward questions that we needed answers to. But again, I mean, as a guide for what's going on, what people are doing, what are the pressure points, it just sort of sets us up as we hopefully march forward, just a little bit better prepared to understand the kind of issues that we're going to have to address going forward. So I thought that was terrific. And obviously I know that Ford was haunting you guys for an estimate of operating costs from the get-go. So I'm glad that you were able to get that completed. Now, we all understand that this is, sort of forward-looking, early days, et cetera, but just having some sense of the different things that we have to face should we get the voters' approval in June, quite helpful. And I thank you, Kathy, and all the members of the team that really worked pretty darn hard to get all this information for us. I'm going to ask John now if he has any questions or comments. Thank you again.
Welcome.
Thanks, Bob. Well said. Agree with everything. I really nothing to add to Bob's comments. Just one quick question from Carl Warnick with regards to Kathy's outlining of the custodial staff. Carl, who does the custodial work now, and how often is that done?
My day custodian does it on a daily basis. Just
Got it.
one custodian, 3 to 4 hours a day. That's set up and so on and so forth. Because
How
he does a lot of setup for COA.
And how is that working now, in your opinion?
Fine. My night custodian has nothing to do with Carol at all. Setups or anything like that, cleaning, so on and so forth.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you all. That's it for me, Bob.
Okay, John, Robin?
So my comments just sort of follow John, and again, great work by the entire committee. I think when you present this operating mock-up, it's really important to show what are incremental costs versus what are costs that we're already incurring. Because my guess, we already do have some of these costs in the operating budget. Granted, some of it is offset by rentals or lessees, but we do have a custodian. It looks like we probably need additional custodians. So I think I would try and segregate what's incremental to what we have today.
Yeah, I think this is a starting point, Robin, is just trying to get our arms around what we may face based on other community centers and what they actually have. We do,
Right, and
it
it's
also
no,
depends on hours,
Right.
that we ultimately set. So there's a lot of variables that we need to ultimately wrestle with.
right. I mean, there's no surprise to me. I always assumed that there would be an additional headcount, for a community center coordinator. You can't expect to have a center without a coordinator. But, I thought there was a lot of material. I think if there's a way to put a table of contents together, maybe, and number the items just to make it easier for people to go through it, that would be helpful. If there's a way maybe to put it all into one PDF with the table of contents. It just was a lot of information, and I didn't know if I should read one before the other, so I was just opening them based upon how I saved them in the folder I saved them. So I mean, even if you just number them, it would be helpful.
Yes. So we sort of had a follow the chronology of it, and so we sort of know that it started with the contingency plan. But we can get this wrapped up. And when I say we, I mean Kathy.
Right, but I mean, it's great. It's a lot of really, really good material.
Well, I'm happy to I think that's great. I appreciate that input and what would make it,
An easier
it's hard
read.
to, yes. And how many different people are going to be looking at this? I mean, that's the other thing. So yes, but I think those are great suggestions, and we should take it, and especially with that, the mock-up, the operating, because I think that's going to confuse, or it could confuse people, and it's one of the more important things that it be very clear to people. So yes.
Well, Kathy, again, thank you, and thank the committee for all that work. So we're going to move on to item 1.2, Community Center Building Committee update. Mr. Ford Spalding.
Thank you, Bob. I am Ford Spalding, and I'm chairing the Community Center Building Committee and living at 5 Hutton Road. Before we begin, one is the material that Kathy has done, which is phenomenal, and I have met with them. Is that on the website? If not, can it be put on the website?
It could be Ford. Do you think we should fix that, work on the operating budget, the mock-up before we put it on? And do all the organization like Robin suggests?
Probably, but I think it would be ideal if it could be on the, maybe what you have now, put it on the website now going into the town meeting, because I think it's important for people to be able to, for us to be able to refer people to it, and they can read the information. So I'll let everybody else figure out how to do that. But I think having all this information on the website's important.
So let me,
Kathy's delegating to you something new and different.
Yeah, thank you.
so let me suggest though, Kathy, that don't let Ford off the hook. And you guys need to make sure that you work together to we get the right information up there in the right
Yeah.
format. All right? And
Yes.
if
Never
Ford
have
gives
to-
you a hard time, come speak to me.
You never have to worry about Kathy and Ford working together.
That's not what I heard. Come on.
Thank you all. With me is from the committee, and I was just looking at the list, and I think the only one I see from our committee is Ruth Townsend. If there are others, let me know. But Ruth, thank you for being with us. I know you had two hats this evening. Also with me is Phil Palumbo from Colliers International, who is our owner's project manager, who I'm really asked to lead us off. But before I do, I think it's extremely important to understand that we're the bricks and mortar. And what Kathy talked about is bringing the building alive. And the people that really will bring it alive are people like Janet and Mark. We're going to provide the facility that's going to get the job done, but they're the ones that are going to make this building alive for citizens. And this is a community center project, as I said. It's for ages 3 to 93. It's for everybody in the Dover community. It's a place to socialize with your friends. It's a place to make new friends and get to know them. It's a place to get out of this COVID isolation when it's there. Hopefully COVID will be gone, but to go in and see people and socialize. And I think that's the main point we're trying to get across. Then when you're in the building, not only can you socialize, but you'll be able to do a variety of activities. And we've gone through a study of the types of activities that people want, both passive and active. And we are recommending to the town a facility that can do all of that. And I think it's also a facility that's going to make everybody proud. So finally, it's going to solve, Kathy, it's going to solve the 20-year plus issue of what do we do with that darn building? And it was an elementary school. I can remember some old townies saying when the fire alarm went off, they all climbed outside of the window. That's the fire horn, not the alarm. And they went to the fire. So this was used by generations before us. It's time to retire that building because you know something? This town can do a heck of a lot better than it's doing right now for the citizens in the town. And so I think we've developed a very exciting type program. First, what I want to do is ask Phil Palumbo to say hi but to talk about where we are with the budget. We started with a $13 million budget, which I always said over my dead body would we ever exceed. But then we had COVID. We had a pandemic that had an effect on really dramatic inflationary costs in the building world. So, Phil, do you want to talk about that, or please?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. So, like Ford mentioned, we recently got our schematic design estimates back, and they are actually we're over budget by more than we were back in the feasibility study estimate, which is not what we were expecting because we actually went into schematic design reducing the floor plan. So essentially what we've learned, and I'll just kind of elaborate on what Pete Timothy at Monday night's building committee meeting, he's one of the cost estimators on the project, some of the talking points he went into, try to go into a little more detail. And in prep for tonight's meeting, I actually had a conversation with a general contractor colleague of mine that I trust and is a reputable general contractor. And some of my bullet points I'll speak to are actually directly from him. So believe it or not, we actually have a very hot, a very active commercial construction marketplace right now. As much as we're seeing these issues, these cost escalation issues, it's an active marketplace. It's a booming real estate market. It's an active home improvement market. So because of that hyped up demand and the material supply issue, generally speaking, that equates to escalations in costs. So to get into some details on some of the cost stuff, so wood, for example, back in February and March, there were plants, manufacturing plants down in Texas that were out because of the abnormal ice storms they got down in Texas. Those were plants that helped produce plywood. So that resulted in some shortage in plywood supply. Lumber producers throughout the country, just in general, are producing less lumber due to COVID. And then you have the continuing, what we're hearing about lately is the importing and exporting issues of these different building materials. And then for steel, there's this new e-commerce marketplace, if you will, where, companies are actually just, purchasing steel online, which is kind of a new thing now. What's happening with that hyped up demand? You got increased lead times on steel, increased costs on things like steel joists, metal deck, steel fabricators that fabricate the steel and provide it to the subcontractors. They're getting their prices that they pay to their raw material suppliers. Those prices are increasing. So it's a domino effect. They have to then hike up their prices to the steel subcontractors. And then just kind of raw material in general is increasing in cost. So plastic, for example, PVC conduit is increasing in cost, and back to metal. So sheet metal ductwork is increasing, metal studs, and so on and so on. And then on the labor side of things, and again, these are straight from a general contractor that was validating over the past 4 to 5 months, this increase in cost is legitimate. So labor, for example, they're seeing contractors not aggressively bidding anymore, and being a lot more selective on the jobs they go after, because one, they don't know if they can staff the project. And then two, if they can staff the project, they don't know if they can officially work through it and make a profit. And then they're actually still seeing a workforce shortage. It really spiked when COVID first hit, but that issue hasn't gone away. So, some workforce folks that aren't back at it, maybe they still have COVID concerns. Maybe some are incentivized to get back into it. Maybe their, unemployment benefits, the enhanced unemployment benefits outweigh, the wages they were making when they were working, whatever it may be. But there's a labor side of this issue as well that these general contractors are seeing. And the last kind of item that, we ended the conversation with was, generally speaking, when they see market issues like this, anywhere from 6 to 12 months, and then it kind of settles out. But he's like, we couldn't predict that or guarantee that with this one. It's just a little too volatile of a market condition right now. But I mean, ultimately, as much as it was a kind of a punch in the face coming into the schematic design estimate and seeing the numbers we saw, everything we're hearing, Dover's not in a vacuum or in a bubble on this one. It's across the board, across the country. They're accurate, legitimate numbers. So we just got to make sure we appropriately account for them.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, just this afternoon, we had a meeting with Chris Dwelly and Jerry Lane and Carl Valenti and Bob Springett and myself to work on how we're going to pay for this. How are we going to pay for this $18 million building? Plus, if we have Article 4 or 5 that go through, what's going to be the strategy? I cannot tell you tonight exactly what that strategy is going to be. I can tell you that probably within the next 10 days, we're going to be able, the selectmen may be able to release a strategy that we're going to be able to employ to the community if they say yes to this building project. And we'll have that information well in advance of the special town meeting on June 12th. So, and quite frankly, I was very encouraged by it, just to let you know. I think it's a good plan that they're working on. We have some real pros in Jerry Lane and Carl Valenti working on it. We are very fortunate to have both of them on board for the town. And so there'll be more on that, probably not this evening, but within the next, hopefully 10 days. Why don't I go just for a very quick run through of the building plans for those that haven't seen it when they watch it. I think most of you have, but we'll quickly go through it. Kate, let's go through. The first one is the renovation option. This is a renovation with an addition on it. We're keeping the 1910 building, which is the building facing the town hall. As you look at this, where you see renovation option, first level, that's on Springdale Street, facing the town hall. In there will be the Council on Aging office suite. There'll be what we call the gathering room. It's a meeting room. It's a place for informal gathering to play cards, chat, read the newspaper, read a book, just talk with your friends. It's a social space. Across from that is the recreational court. This is for active and passive use for various activities, from basketball to maybe a dance of some kind or a large dinner. So it can be used for a lot of different things. To the right of that, at the entrance is in the back of, as we know, the back of the building. That's where the parking area all is. There'll be an entrance there, and the Park and Recreation office will be there. And that's where the welcome area is. When you come into the building to use it, you'll check in there, and you'll record that you're there. People will know where you are, and you need that for security reasons as well as others. But it's going to be a friendly, welcoming area, all within that Parks and Recs area. Where Kathy talked about the building coordinator, who's going to be actually administrating the building. That person will also be in that area. The outside of that space is social area. It connects into a cafe. When we talk about a cafe, we're talking about really a very informal cafe. It'd be a place where you might have a couple of Keurig machines. You can get some coffee. There might be a soft drink machine or water machine or whatever. Somebody might bring in bagels or muffins that they could have in there, but it's an open space where you can meet and talk to people. You know, rather than having to go to Blue Moon in Medfield, we could go right there. And Blue Moon brings in bagels to Council on Aging. There you go. You could have it right there. The community room is a large social room. That's where, for example, there can be lunches for the senior community or anybody. It's going to be a lovely room, and you'll see from the outside what that looks like. But that's the main social space with a kitchen connecting to it. And just on the outside, you'll see with some tables, a place to go have your coffee, go out and meet people. On a day like today, that would have been a perfect spot. Let's go to the next floor, please. This is the second level. As we're looking towards the renovation option, second level, that's looking towards the town hall in Springdale. On the left is a movement studio. You might think of it as Aaron's dance studio. That's where dance or aerobic activities can take. The floor will be a spring floor. Next to that is a conference room. It'll just add to the conference rooms for the use in the town. Then we have one space that's divisible by two, flexible space. That can be used, again, for small meetings. It can be used for arts and crafts, maybe a few small music rehearsals or something, but that's what that space is. And then a local kids play area, as moms and dads bring their older children to work out activities, maybe in the recreation space downstairs or the movement studio or somewhere. The younger kids can play there, and the moms or dads will be right there to supervise them and do that. So that's our building for the renovation and addition option. Let's go next to the new building option. First level of the new building. This is an entirely new building. They would take down, and that's figured in their budget, they would take down the current building, and this building would go up. As you look ahead, we have some storage space, some rooms there. You have, of course, bathroom facilities, the recreational court, and park and rec office. We have the same rooms in the renovation as well as the new. Community room, kitchen, and conference room. Let's go to the second floor. Again, the movement studio is in really pretty much the same location as the other. We have the gathering room, flexible space room, the Council on Aging room. On this rendition, they're on the second floor. Obviously, there's an elevator and stairs, but it is on the second floor. And outside of that is a deck that is going to be able to be used, again, for social space or what have you, but it'll be a second floor deck. So that's a quick run through. I think most of you have seen these things, but that's the run through of that. Let's do an outside tour, Kate. Phil, you're looking good there, but
Thank you.
Kate's still working at it, so patience is a virtue. Kate's going to run through this. This is the new building. Look, we're going down Springdale now with the town hall on the right and the new building on the left. The community room is on the left in this rendition. On the far right is the dance studio, movement studio, the entrance we're going by, glass in entrance with stairs going upstairs. So this is the look of the new building on the Springdale side, the front of the building. We'll now go around, Center Street is to our left. Oh, we're still in the front. These, this film is, it's about a month or so old. We're going to have a new one closer to town meeting that, well, no, they're not going to be able to see it because we'll be outdoors, but we'll have a new one for people to see online. Looking again now towards the Council on Aging spot upstairs on the second floor with the community room downstairs. We're on Center Street. Now going to the back of the building. Back of the building, you're looking at the meeting room on the second floor, the Council on Aging on the second floor, and the community room to the left is the recreation building, recreation space. So this is our rendition of the outside of the new building. Okay, Kate, you want to go to the next one? Again, the same number of rooms, the same spatial space of the rooms pretty much is in both the new and the renovation slash addition. These are all on the website, found out when you go to the Dover website and you go to the building committee site, you can go down and all this information is on our site, including all PowerPoints, all minutes. We even record all of our meetings, and that is also on the website. You go to the YouTube section of the building of the town website, and it's there. So we get it up about 2 or 3 days after we've had our meeting. It'll be coming up shortly.
Can you not see the presentation?
You know, you don't have it up, Kate.
Okay, I'm just trying.
That's why I'm having you do it. There you go. This is the view of the renovation addition. What you see on the left as we're going down Springdale is the community room on the left with an outdoor sitting area on the Springdale side. The front entrance where you see those bushes on the right there, that's the Council on Aging space. And these windows on the front, 3 windows are in Council on Aging office space. The second floor is the flexible rooms. And the now we're going around. Again, the community room, outdoor space to socialize, have a cup of coffee, meet friends. On the left is the recreation building. This is the main entrance. There is going to be an entrance, as you noticed, off of Springdale also. The Park and Recreation office are the two windows to the left of the entrance. And we are on basically the open property, and to as you're looking at to the left will be parking. Thank you. That's a quick run through. We have had quite a few meetings, as you can see, not only our own building committee meetings, which were weekly at one point, but we've had 3, I think, community citizen meetings where we've gotten a lot of input from the very beginning. They've been very well attended. We've had, in some cases, well over 100 citizens have been attending these meetings. We're going to continue that process. This Wednesday, next Wednesday, next Wednesday, May 12th at 7 p.m. will be in a citizens forum. It'll be an update of our budget, update perhaps of our financing plan, and update of any design changes that have taken place with new pictures and perhaps even a new flyover. A chance for people to ask questions and give us input, as we are a month away at that point from the special town meeting. Then on June 2nd, we're going to do another citizens forum. It'll be a pre-town meeting presentation. In fact, we'll do the town meeting presentation in full at that meeting, and people will be able to see the presentation sort of live and with a PowerPoint. June 12 at 10 a.m. is the special town meeting. At that point, we will take the presentation and we are going to have it all on paper because that's the only way we're going to be able to show it. And we'll be able to walk people through our presentation with that. At the same time, we've developed, which should be out in another 7 to 10 days, a FAQ, frequently asked questions. And it's going to give you a lot more detail than we'll probably be able to give at town meeting. So that will be additional information which we'll distribute electronically for the next 3 weeks before town meeting. And then at the town meeting, we'll have hard copies. So you're going to have a lot of hard, paper at the town meeting, but we'll hopefully have it stapled together, and we won't have papers flying around like when the wind blows. So that's it. Our main task right now, everybody, is to get people to the town meeting. Saturday, June 10th, it's going to be a lovely day. And we hope to have a very large crowd because this is an important decision and it should only be made by a large group of citizens to decide to move forward.
Thanks, Ford.
Yes, sir.
John, any question or comment?
Thanks, Ford. Well done. I think most of the people that are on in the meeting tonight were at the meeting on Monday, Ford, when you gave the presentation. So I don't think there's anything that I could add that I hadn't said on Monday. And the only thing that I want to reiterate is you have done a very, very good job with everything that we've talked about, with all the things that we've heard, with the situation that we're in. The only thing that I'm going to reiterate is we can control the things that we can control. You cannot control a sudden spike in prices and a sudden shortage of commodities. So don't focus on the things you can't control. Let's just focus on the things we can control And if I could summarize it by saying to you and to everybody involved, don't back down.
Thanks, John. Robin?
I don't really have any comments at this time. I recognize the committee has worked really hard. I mean, personally, the only thing that I find a little bit disappointing is the actual new structure. I was expecting something to be similar more to the Collins Center, which from my point of view, would fit in better with the town center. But I'm just one person, and I recognize that the indoor space works really well and meets the needs of the community center.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ford, thank you. John, thanks for showing up. Phil, thanks for your input. You guys are off to the races and we have a deadline. So I'm going to move on to item number 1.3, revised special town meeting date and location discussion and potential vote. And I'm the presenter. So I will give just a brief background. I walked away from this from the town meeting on May 1st. And I was quite enthusiastic about the outcome of the meeting and how it was held, all the preparations, and the execution throughout the meeting. And then I started to reflect a little bit about it, and began to wonder if we could move the meeting from an outdoor environment to an indoor environment. I had several reasons. One of it was we wanted to make sure we were able to give people in town an opportunity to attend. We were worried about conflicts on a Saturday with parents, with kids at sports, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we had a good town meeting, but we had 80 people. There was a consideration that if we moved it to an evening meeting, that we could attract more people. That was one. This particular meeting, as we can see, is going to be a much more visual meeting. The town meeting, we relied almost exclusively on the Blue Book. That was a kick. We had, everybody was wrestling with handouts on Wednesday, on Saturday, and the two outdoor town meetings we had, one, we were ducking thunderstorms, and the second one, we were battling the wind. And I thought if we could get into an environment where we weren't dealing with the elements, that would be important. And the last, not the last in importance, but the last note I had was, I thought there was ways that we could get an indoor meeting and make sure that it was a safe environment for residents who would attend. I sent that out to essentially to the team that helped plan the December meeting. I got some feedback, and the feedback was, guys, we should stick with the outdoor meeting. It's the safest environment. We've done it twice, and we prefer if we do that again. And I'm all for doing it again, if taking the advice of the Board of Health and a number of other people who applied. So in terms of moving the meeting, I think that won't be that we will stay with the original Saturday date. I think it's June 12th. So questions or comments? Kay, you okay? Board of Health?
We're very happy with that decision. We think that's the safest. We wish it could be otherwise, because I get that there are going to be some significant problems, but I think there's, there are a variety of factors. It's the prevalence of COVID in Massachusetts is still not terribly low. We're not even in the middle of the pack. We're a little above the middle of the pack in terms of prevalence. And yes, we have less COVID in Dover than we do in Massachusetts as a whole, but we still are seeing multiple cases every week, including this week. So I think the safest thing is to hold it outdoors. Outdoors is always safer than indoors by a long shot. And I'll acknowledge that, Bob, as you mentioned in our phone call, that we've had a ventilation assessment and remediation done at the regional school, I mean, at all the schools and all the town buildings. And that helps. Masking helps, social distancing helps, but it doesn't really help enough I think, for us to feel confident that it's worth taking the risk of people getting COVID. Even vaccinated people can get COVID, and they're called breakthrough cases. We've already had at least one breakthrough case in Dover. So it happens enough that it is a concern. We also have a particular concern about something that was obvious at Saturday's town meeting, which is that people are so happy to see each other that there's clumping beforehand and after. People can be very well separated during the meeting, but the clumping is a problem. And it's a problem with kids in school, and it's a problem with adults. But if you're clumping with people, it's a lot safer outdoors than indoors. I guess, that's our opinion. I also think from my own circles and what I've heard from other people is that there are a lot of people who would not attend if the meeting were indoors because they'd be concerned about the risk. So I worry about attendance, but that's not the Board of Health's worry per se.
Thank you, Jay. I understand that Dave Haviland is a really big clumper. He's like the king of clumping, as far as I can tell.
I've been
Steve, you have
accused of a lot of
anything to
things,
add?
Bob,
You
but that's a first.
good? Steve, are you okay? You good?
Jay and I are in full agreement on this, and we're glad that it's going the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Jim, you good?
No, I'm going to be a voice of a counter voice here. I am concerned about having the meeting in June, even outdoors. And the reason I'm concerned, to go back to the meeting that we had last week, with the wind blowing, it was difficult for some people to hear. People were having trouble flipping pages of the blue book. And as one of our wise selectmen pointed out, when we received a surprise from the state auditors with a much larger free cash number than we expected, when you get a surprise, it's better to stop, pause, and think. And I think we've been handed a surprise now with rising construction costs. I had dinner last week with a friend of mine who owns several hotels and is also a builder. And he commented that his construction costs are up 40%. And if that's the case for us as well, I think that's a surprise that we have to take into account. I don't see any reason why we can't have a meeting in September, when hopefully we'll have a better feel for the ability to have a meeting indoors where more people could attend and would be able to understand perhaps a little bit better what's going on. And also we might have some improvement with respect to the supply chain and a reduction of construction costs, or some prognostication about what's going to happen to the construction costs going forward. I very much appreciate all the work Ford and his committee have done. I'm very appreciative of all the work that the Board of Health has done. I see no reason to rush into this. The committee, Ford's committee, has done a lot of work, and I can understand they're anxious to get it over with, but that's a small part of our entire town. And I think the town as a whole would be better served to wait until September to have a meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Dave?
At this point, I understand what Jim is saying, and my concern is the quorum, just like yours, Bob. And if we don't get a quorum outside, then we're going to be postponing anyway. And, you know, echoing what Ford was saying, that, and you have said, Bob, that this would be better served if we could hold it inside. But I mean, personally, holding it inside right now, I mean, I'm questioning whether or not I would even intend. So I'm delighted that we're going to still have it outside if we're going to hold it now. But I understand what Jim is saying, that what is the best time as well as the best venue to have a successful town meeting on such an important thing with all this work that's gone into it. And that's, I think, the question before us. What is the greatest chance of efficacy and success? And is it better to do it now? Or is it better to wait until perhaps, whether it's September, that's can be debated. But if we wait until perhaps herd immunity, or we'll have a much better chance of licking this thing, could we have a town meeting? So I don't know if Kay or anyone from the Board of Health could weigh in on their opinions on where we might be in September, and see if that would, again, the whole point here is to have a successful town meeting and give the committee that has worked so hard the best day in court, if you will, that we can give them.
Thank you, Dave. Kay, do you have a crystal ball?
I was just thinking about that. I dropped it the other day and it doesn't work anymore, but I do think that we don't know. That's the best thing I can say, is that we don't know where we'll be in 3 months. And you could argue that that even in 3 months, it would be safer to have a meeting outside. We just have no idea. I mean, hopefully things will be a lot better. But if they're not, what would you do then? Would we be back to square one, having a meeting outdoors? I will say that I don't think, I know that you all did everything you could and did a wonderful job truncating the meeting, or making the meeting as efficient as possible. And it was under 2 hours, right? I think something like that. But I'm not sure that we need to, when we're outside, that we need to worry about the duration of the meeting. I think that there could be a leisurely approach to the deliberation that needs to happen with such an important topic. I don't know if that makes a difference in the way people think about it, but you know, that was a very safe environment to be holding a meeting in. And I wasn't worried about people at all. Steve, would you add? Can I ask if Steve would add anything to that?
No, I think that it's purely up in the air as to what will be occurring in September. With the advent of people mingling far more in the next few months, we could even see another surge. So you can't say.
Thanks, Steve. Usually I don't take comments, but Nina, since you have a big part to play in this, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I just have a question. Has the board voted to reduce the quorum for the special town meeting?
We have not. We're going to keep it at 175. It's the last I remember it.
Okay, I just wanted to check. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I want to thank you all for your input, and I'll take further consideration with the other board members. And but I think right now the planning will stay, unless I hear differently from the other board members, for the 12th. There's no time. There's never a good time for this. We're just going to have to go for it, I think. So I'm going to move on to now. This is an interesting one. Discuss showtime request for use of town-owned property during filming and potential vote. Item 1.4. Thank goodness I don't have to talk about this one. Mr. Dwelly.
Thanks, Bob. So Showtime will be filming in Dover for 2 days in June at a private residence. And the team, Victoria and Ryan, who are with us this evening, had approached the town about potentially using town property to assist with the filming. So one of the areas that they had expressed interest in is to use the Carroll Community Center. So they are here this evening to discuss filming in June, and also how they would intend to use the Carroll Community Center. We need the board's approval if you're to allow them to use the building. And I would say that if the board is prepared to make a decision tonight, that that approval would be contingent on a lease agreement that we would sign with the company that would include insurance and the town's fee for the use, as well as any other requirements that the town might want to impose on that engagement. So with that, Victoria, Ryan, I don't know who wants to take the lead, but
sure. Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Ryan Cook. I'm the supervising location manager for the television show for the project. Victoria Virtue, who has really been taking lead on this, is here as well. I didn't know that the community center was going to be the hot topic of tonight. So I have a big appreciation for what it means to the town and what it eventually will mean to the town. As Chris said, we represent the film project that wants to film at a private residence. What we're looking to do, or potentially requesting to do at the community center, is we need a place to feed our crew. The reason that we're looking at usually we have been setting up tents. The reason why we're looking at the community center is proximity to where we're filming at a private residence on Pegan Lane. To be able to shuttle our crew as short of distance as possible because of our COVID restrictions and the protocols that we're using in our return to work agreement. Per the unions, we can only put 2 people in a vehicle at a time. So we're looking for as short of a shuttle distance as possible to be able to feed our crew and bring them back to work. Really, the process of feeding our crew is we break for lunch, we shuttle everybody down to a place where they can sit 6 feet apart, eat their prepackaged meals as quickly as they can, and we get back to the house and get back to work, all of which takes about 45 minutes to an hour max. So really, most of the usage of the space would be setting up, our caterers preparing the meals ahead of time, and then sort of a wave of our crew comes down to the center, we sit down, we eat, and then we get back to work. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of the request for that space.
Hey, Ryan, that doesn't sound like fun. Is Victoria gonna add?
Well, he's the boss. He takes the reign on everything and he knows what he's doing. But I mean, so we've been in contact with, trying to figure out what our plan is here. And the Carroll Community Center just works great for us, just like what Ryan said. It's close for us. I see that you guys have the space, and it would just work out so great for us in that way.
Thank you. John, you have anything?
What part does Bob play?
That's for the later negotiation. After we have to sign the lease agreement.
It's the scene's a bunch of teenagers breaking into somebody's vacation home. So maybe it's Bob's house that they break into.
That has been done before. Let me tell you. He's got 3 kids, so I'm sure that's happened. Nothing for me. Good luck with everything.
You good, John?
Good.
Robin?
As long as it works for the town staff, I'm in favor of it. Sounds like potentially a win-win for everyone.
Okay. Right. So, and I agree. It's sort of exciting. I know people will be excited about this kind of stuff. So I'm going to move to authorize the town administrator to enter into a license agreement with the Showtime production company for the purposes presented at this meeting tonight.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter. There's a question.
Up. Go ahead, Jerry. Again,
I'm just curious, and this is directed to the 2 individuals from the production company. You will not be doing any cooking or food storage at the community center itself, is that correct?
The cooking and the food storage all happens on our truck, on our food truck. So really, we just need 4 walls and a roof to do the serving in. So we don't need any kitchen facilities or refrigerators or anything like that. Everything is self-contained because that truck travels with us. We're out in Amherst, Mass this week, so that goes with us everywhere.
And how will you handle sanitary requirements?
So we have a pretty stringent return to work protocol because we're all unionized. So everything, like I said, all these meals are prepackaged. They're made ahead of time. And as the crew goes through the line, they order the day ahead of time through a digital app. And so they're handed these meals in their prepackaged things. And then we have with us at all times, we have a COVID and health and safety team that has sanitizing materials. We all have PPE. We're all COVID tested every single day before we come to work, believe it or not. I think I'm on my 128th COVID test so far this year. Also, a lot of our crew at this point is vaccinated, but we have a pretty stringent, just per union policy. So all those spaces will be wiped down ahead of time, and we'll probably also utilize as best we can, opening as much air ventilation in there, and probably bringing in air scrubbers as well. My next step would be, if we get approval tonight, which I'm hoping we do, to bring our health and safety team for a walk through there. They'll measure the space, and then they'll determine how many air scrubbers and type of air ventilation that we need to make the space occupied for us.
And you'll pardon my coarseness in this question, but you do realize that bathroom facilities are very limited in that building.
We will probably bring our own bathroom trailers into that facility. We'll bring in our own bathroom trailers, and we'll bring our own dumpsters as well. We're a little traveling circus.
Very good. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Victoria. We're going to move on to item 1.5. This one might not be as exciting for folks. This is Century Bank lockbox discussion and potential vote. So I see a lot of people dropping off the screen here. No offense, Carl. No offense, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although I think at the end of my presentation, you're going to find that it is incredibly exciting, at least for people who are interested in this type of things. But what the town treasurer, Jerry Lane, and I are proposing is that the town enter into a contract for lockbox processing of real estate and motor vehicle excise payments, which is a fancy way of saying we want to further automate the work we do in terms of processing payments from our residents for the real estate bills and their excise bills. We believe this is consistent with the board's strategic goal setting from a couple of years ago about really encouraging us to look at ways to use technology to improve services to our residents and to improve staff efficiency. So one of the things we've been looking at in the treasurer's office is trying to get out from under the daily processing of real estate and excise bills, which takes up so much of the staff time, and is virtually a manual approach where envelopes have to be opened, they have to be scanned, a deposit slip for the checks has to be prepared, and it literally takes weeks and weeks to go through all that during our heavy period. And I think if you looked at my cover memo on this, I even included a photo from last week of just what we got from the post office for the things that had to be processed. And as of last week, it was taking us about 8 days to process everything that you saw in that mail basket. So lockbox services have been around, well, I would say for about 15 years, but they really became affordable to smaller communities probably within the last 5 years. And in fact, a number of smaller communities we surveyed have been using lockbox services now for a while, and has found it's just a very efficient way to process payments to the town. The process is the bills that people would normally mail into town hall. Instead of coming to town hall, they go to a post office box. They're picked up by the lockbox service every day, processed every night. And the next day we get an electronic turnover, so to speak, for us of every bill that's been processed and what's been turned over to the bank as a deposit, which we just load into our general ledger system. It's not much more complicated than that. Residents who want to come into town hall and pay their bills can continue to do that. Or if they want to come in and leave it in the mailbox out in the circle, they can continue to do that. Those residents who currently pay with our Unipay service online, which is a fair number of people are doing it electronically, they can continue to do that. Won't have any impact on them. It'll really just be those residents who pay by mail, instead of our staff having to process those individually. It's done by high-speed processing equipment, and we get an electronic file that, again, we can load into our billings and collection system as a single activity that takes, maybe 15 minutes instead of the 8 days now it's taking us to process things. This is well thought out technology. It's currently being used by over 150 communities in central and eastern Massachusetts. So that's it in a snapshot. Jerry Lane and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
So thank you, Carl. Thank you, Jerry. When I first started in a commercial bank way long ago, they had lockbox and check processing, and I'm talking 50 years. So this is a well-honed operation. All the kinks have been worked out, and the banks are pretty good with this sort of processing. So I'm going to ask John if he has any questions or comments, and then Robin.
One quick one, Carl, and thank you very much. I totally agree with everything you said, and thank you for the time and the effort that you've put into this. The only question I have is why Century Bank?
We picked Century Bank because they happen to have the longest track record with municipalities. They're the biggest player in eastern and central Massachusetts, but they're not the only player. But one of the things that attracted us to them, and one of our concerns, quite frankly, with you is what happens if they have a systems failure at their, you may be familiar with their Medford facility right off of 93. There's a long-term power outage or some systems failure. And one of the attractions of Century is they have another facility in the Worcester area that provides backup to everything for them. So should there be any problem with the facility here in Medford, they have this alternative facility, and that was a real attraction for us.
Thank you. The reason I asked also, Carl, is Century Bank was purchased 2 weeks ago.
By Eastern, yes. By
Eastern Bank, yeah.
Yeah. And Eastern that was not part of Eastern's portfolio. So in our conversations with Century, they expect this part of their business, which is a significant part of Century's business, and not only for municipalities, but a lot of private sector organizations that do billing and collections. All of that to continue, and we believe that was part of the interest that Eastern Bank had, is being able to have a service they don't currently offer.
Yeah, thank you. There's just in full disclosure, there's a brilliant young female data analytics person that got hired by Eastern Bank a year ago that happens to live in my house. So
that's so.
Yeah.
Nepotism.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Mrs. Hunter.
I have no questions or comments. I was gonna say that at least 40 years, I've been aware of lockboxes processing, so it's not a new technology. It's the way all corporations collect receipts. It's really the way to go. And over the years, it's become even better because now every image is digitalized. So it's even quicker than it used to be. So I commend the town. I think you will find processing time decrease significantly by setting this up.
Thank you, Robin. So I move to authorize the town administrator to execute all contract documents related to Century Bank and Trust Company.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
You know, John, I think that this is your bill port, that this picture here is your monthly checks that you write. Isn't that true? Plus, I like the way that they're all very colorful palettes. Very well chosen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just want to get the money faster.
Good. Thank you, board members. Well, we'll look into the family discount now that we're aware of that possibility.
Good point, Carl.
Work them, Carl. Work them.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
Okay.
thank you. Good night.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Carl.
Yep. Good night now.
Item 1.6, approve and execute June 21, 2021 special town election warrant. Mr. Dwelly.
Thanks, Bob. The title of it really says it all. So this is the election warrant that accompanies the appropriation vote that is anticipated at the special town meeting. So given that the town intends to finance at least a portion of the project via debt exclusion, we're required to have an election to confirm that vote. So the election warrant is before you. As you mentioned, it is scheduled for June 21st at the townhouse.
John or Robin, any questions?
None.
I got a couple of no's. All right, I move to approve the June 21st, 2021 special town election warrant as presented.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Sorry, I, Robin Hunter.
Thank you.
Rio's making a ton of noise, so I'm trying. Yeah, that's you.
Is he hungry? I mean, it's getting late.
Oh, he's chewing very loudly.
Oh, chewing very loudly. All right. Item 1.7, discuss health insurance memorandum of agreement and potential vote. Mr. Dwelly.
Thanks, Bob. 3 years ago, the town did a really great job focusing on health insurance plan design and ways to reduce the health insurance liability and cost to the town, but also to strengthen the health insurance programs that we offer to our employees. At that time, 3 years ago, the town bargained with all of the employee unions in town to offer various financial incentives if individuals were to pick certain health insurance plans that had a even greater financial cost reduction to the town. The first was to encourage individuals to move over to a high deductible plan, which again is a lower cost annual premium for both the town and for the employee. And then the other financial incentive program was an opt-out program where the town would provide a financial incentive for employees currently enrolled in a health insurance plan to move off of a town-sponsored plan into another plan not provided by the town. So the agreement before you this evening is to essentially extend those offerings for another 3 years. We've had conversations with the police and the highway unions in town, and I have joined, and Robin's joined, Don Fattore for the discussions with the Chickering and the regional teachers. Just a quick point that I wanted to highlight. These health insurance incentives saved the town approximately $70,000 this fiscal year. So it's a real, again, it's a win-win. It provides employees with a really great option, but also saves the town some money as well.
Thank you, Chris. John or Robin, anything?
Bob, I just read what was presented to us. My experiences in the context of what we did last year and what we've done with the contracts for the union. So I think Robin's probably got a bit more expertise and may have had more insight with her conversations with Don. So I have none, and I would defer to Robin.
And I would just say it's a continuation of, the practice we put in place that has been very beneficial to both the towns and the employees that participate in the plans.
Win-win. I like that. That's terrific. Thank you. So I move to approve the memorandum of agreement as presented and to extend these same benefits to all other non-bargaining unit eligible employees.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Okay, thank you. Item 1.8, townhouse upgrades reopening presentation. Kate O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Looks good.
Yes.
All right, there we go. So planning has been underway and really have just started the last couple of weeks for our eventual public reopening of the town buildings. And we just wanted to give you an update of our proposed opening date of August 2nd and some of the upgrades we'll be making to the townhouse to prepare for the public to come back, but also just some general updates that improvements that need to be done anyway for staff and residents. So I broke out this presentation down in a couple phases. But first, I just want to kind of go over a quick review of the work we've done, some planned and some unplanned, thanks to 2020 and COVID. So obviously the space for COVID-19 protocols was something necessary we had to do. Closing the building to the public since March, all meetings became virtual. And one planned thing we did was we did complete a space study in October by the firm SMMA. So that was part of the plan. So for social distancing, we basically, in order to meet the protocols, we rent extra workspaces, and we have 6. So we separated everyone, one person per office, and so everyone was comfortable. We also did a switch, the Board of Health office and the Planning Board office. And this was something we did right after the space study was completed because it just seemed like an easy fix with really no cost to the town. The Planning Board office was bigger and it had the space that the Board of Health needed. Also in preparation for our new space for our new land use director, which was important. And the biggest, I think, thing is the implement of the new technology. We had to use and learn Zoom, Google Meet, social media, and a new website. And staff also got laptops. Again, that was just in case we needed to go all remote and if the office was shut down again. So we're really putting these phases into 3 phases of renovations here. And the first phase is the Great Hall and Board of Selectmen meeting room. So this phase is really in preparation for our new normal of meetings being hybrid, being in person, but also having the capability of being remote. So the goal here is to get the great room ready for broadcasting, recording Board of Selectmen meetings and other board meetings. And then the first necessary step is we need to install a carpet. So that is one of the major things for phase one. It also, we are implementing the new technology, which would be, I can show you right here, be purchasing 2 large monitors for the Great Hall and 1 monitor for the Board of Selectmen meeting room. Again, this will help us allow public participation remotely when we're doing in person, which is hopefully soon in August and in the fall. So just a little background of the purchases here is, so we have the carpet in the Great Hall. We also will be looking for some sort of table. It's a boardroom like a table for you guys, look official. We're going to make sure it's movable, again, help us utilize the Great Hall for other events. And the technologies, as I mentioned, that's something Dave is working on. And he's also working with Dover Sherborne Cable as far as making sure the meeting production and the streaming capabilities are all set in the Great Hall and in the Board of Selectmen meeting room. So for funding for the technology, everything is going to be funded through the CARES Act. And for the furniture and carpet, that is going to be funded through the town meeting article that was passed 2020 for the town hall. It was one time was called Town Hall Space Reconfigurations. So that was passed in 2020. So phase 2 is our restroom renovation. And this is really being headed by Carl Warnick. I asked if he wanted, we could be like a Chip and Joanna thing, but he really didn't take me up on that offer. But so we're renovating 2 of the restrooms on the first floor. Estimated cost is $20,000. Again, the funding from this will be coming out of that town meeting article from 2020. And really, we needed to update them anyway for staff and for residents. It's going to improve the sanitation, greater comfort and easy access for the public, and just provides a fresh, attractive restroom facilities, reflects well on our organization. So phase 3 is probably our biggest phase, and that's really going to be after we open up in August, beginning of August, kind of after the phase 1 is done, after phase 2 is done, is really take the space study assessment report that was done and really refine the recommendations and see, what we're working with, what's working, what's not working, and be very thoughtful about any changes, and be very flexible. So flexible walls, workstations, privacy pods, there's a lot of different options out there. Another goal is that the departments are configured to be more customer centric. So I know a goal is to have, for example, all the land use departments on the same floor, all the public facing departments near each other, and also just easy to navigate for residents, like have a sign or arrows and things like that. Things that would be helpful to find where you need to go when you're in the building. So again, really, it's just going to be refining these recommendations and seeing what's works, utilizing all the space in our beautiful historic building, increasing office space for our current staff and future needs, increasing customer service, and design flexibility. So we can use these spaces for multiple purposes. And so the plan is to propose final recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and the Capital Budget Committee for funding. Now, projected timeline is the phase 1 has already started. Carl and Dave have been working really hard on that. So we expect that to be done by June. And that's the carpet and the technology in the meeting rooms. June, July is the renovation, the restroom renovation. And I have August 1st there, but I think it probably August 2nd is our proposed, opening to the public. This was a date I know the state used as far as lifting restrictions. And obviously this is something we're going to be watching the whole time, how things are going, how the numbers are looking, what other towns are doing around us. But it's good to have a date and some hope, to get back to normal. And the third phase would be after the opening, and would definitely be the longest phase and take us into the next year. So that is my presentation. Internally, task force, as far they're a reopening task force. We've been meeting throughout this whole pandemic, and we met earlier this week just to kind of go over that August date and the proposed changes to the townhouse that will be happening. Also, discussing any concerns or issues that staff have with the reopening of the building.
Terrific. Well done, Kate. Thank you. Mr. Jeffries?
Sorry about that, Kate was muted. Kate, well done. Agree with what Bob said. Well done, thoughtful. Love the phases and the approaches to be able to get people all on the same page. One comment is, did you include the third floor? And is Dave Sullivan still bandaged to the third floor?
Dave is still in the attic, no matter what. No
yeah.
changes.
Dave, how the boxes doing up there? Can we get the boxes out so we give you like a little bit more space? I'm worried about you.
We're doing well in the boxes, and I think we have a lot of room that is, and a lot of weight that's off that ceiling now. So I think it's now a nice place to be.
All kidding aside, is it that worked into the time frame to get everything out so we can get all the boxes out of there and utilize that space and continue on the whole document storage, electronically?
They are concurrent projects, but yes, we have been working on that. Actually, all the departments that have been asked have submitted their forms to the Secretary of State, and I think we have a set date for pickup for shredding. So, and maintenance staff has been moving everything out of there. So, there are some boxes that we still need to keep, but I think there will be a whole reorganization once we have all that space to make sure that things are put up there in a much smarter way.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it for me.
Robin?
I think basically what Dave's saying is he made himself a really nice office up there.
With a view, he has a view.
He is the best office in the townhouse. No, in all seriousness, I think this is much, much overdue, and COVID probably forced us to take action sooner. We should have done it a long time ago. And I love the way that you're utilizing, keeping the character of that building, but implementing modern systems, which are going to make all of you, it's just going to make your jobs a lot easier. So,
actually, the environment a lot better, yeah.
Right, but great presentation, and I look forward to. I'm expecting a party on August 2nd. I'm willing to bring the donuts, so you let me know. I'll be there.
Robin, John's on the vineyard. He's going to have to host on the vineyard in August, a big party.
It's a great idea. Well done, guys.
It's at Chris's house.
Yeah.
All right. Board of Selectmen updates, item 1.9. I should have asked you guys when we were talking about the date, June 12th date, if you were comfortable retaining that date. So I'm going to ask you now. Are you guys comfortable retaining the date of June 12th for the special town meeting?
Yes.
I sort of share Jim Rapetti's sentiments. As I said before, I will go along with this. I'm very uncomfortable with the way we're rushing into things, and especially with the cost escalations due to supply shortages. I just, hope that the committee won't rush into something if they don't have all the answers that they need, and if they can't present a compelling enough argument to the town. I think a lot of work has been done, a lot of progress has been made. For 20 years, we've been deliberating this, and I really would like to make sure that when we do present to the town, we have all our ducks in a row.
Well, I think we do, from what I know what's going on, but Chris, could you, so if we go ahead and we get approval and we get the funding, can you talk about the consequences?
The consequences of getting funding?
Well, if we ask for the funding now, we lock in interest rates presumably.
Well, you have to do bands. You can't, I don't believe you can permanently bond this until the building's completed.
So our financial advisor, so we talked about this, and the financial advisor has essentially said that if a community is interested in bonding a project, there is no better time than now to do it. You know, the first year, whenever we get project authorization, would be a ban, but that they had advised us that they didn't see any issue with us bonding the entire project up front. Now, again, that's to say, and this came up at the community center meeting on Monday, that if the town were to, let's just say, bond $15 million and we only needed 13, obviously that's all the town's liability would be. But I think the crux of the question is that our financial advisor had said that, again, if a community wants to move forward to bond a project, that there's no better time. So I suppose that, you know, the inverse of that is the longer you wait, there's a presumption and an estimate that rates are going to go up. The sheet, we received 2 sheets. One sheet was if we issued debt today, they said 2%, and that if we issued debt in even late next year, you know, it significantly jumps. They quoted us at 3.5. You know, I think that's conservative, but, you know, again, Ford will have all this in the FAQ, but it's just to show that kind of the current market versus what the financial market is anticipating the future to look like.
So basically what you're saying is you can bond a project for an amount rather than what the actual cost is. So you can float a bond for an amount that could be more or less than the actual cost of the building and lock into the interest rate.
Yes.
Okay, so we have the board is going to support the June 12th date. John, you have anything to add?
No.
So why could we not do this for the schools? Why, when we built the schools, did all the funding have to happen under bans? And then once the project was completed, that's when you bonded it? Has something changed in the bonding regulations?
Yeah, so there's 2 things. One, right, is you can incorporate and use bans as a strategy to push out your overall cost for a project over years. And then the other is that, and so don't quote me on this, I'll get the quote from the financial advisors.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
They're essentially saying that the only issue that could occur with bonding the full amount is that the IRS could come back and say that the town has to pay a premium for borrowing all that money up front as it relates to the arbitrage rule. But what they are saying is that with bond rates so low, that the interest essentially that you would have to be required to pay back is immaterial.
Okay, John or Robin, anything else to update? No. Item 1.10, town administrator updates, Mr. Dwelly.
I don't, nothing major that I'd add at this point.
Okay. Consent agenda, C.1. The following items are included on the consent agenda. Approve May 22nd and May 23rd, 2021 special liquor licenses. Approve March 25th, 2021 open session meeting minutes. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, I, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Okay. Ends of business. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded, John Jeffries.
All in favor, I, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Thank you all. Once again, have a great night. You may have a good weekend. Appreciate all your efforts.